Asking for a raise is one of the toughest conversations to have in the workplace. Talking about money is awkward, and the idea of asking your company for more of it sounds terrifying. So how do you do it? Let's find out. What's up everybody? This is Brandon Hill and welcome back to my channel where we share content to help young professionals develop personally, professionally, and financially. Today we're going to talk about how to get a raise and get that bread. First, I'll tell you why it's important to ask for a raise instead of waiting for it to come to you. Then I'll teach you how to create a bulletproof argument on why you deserve a raise. Lastly, you'll want to stick around to the end because I'm going to share a huge bonus tip that could help you greatly increase your chances of success. So let's jump into my computer and walk through this presentation. So this is how to ask for a raise to negotiate successfully with the bulletproof argument. The first point I'll make is why it's important to ask for a raise instead of waiting for it to come to you. And I'll share two views on this. The first is a cynical view of the company you work for. At a high level, the goal of any company is to maximize the value of the firm for the shareholders. And one way to do that is to keep expenses low. And one way to keep expenses low is to keep payroll as low as possible. So to keep payroll from rising, management may refrain from giving out raises when they can. If no one's asking for them, why would they give it to you? The second view I'll share is that your boss is a busy person. They're busy with their work as well as managing the work of everybody on the team. And you may have 5, 6, 10 people on your team that they're always thinking about. With all that goes on, you shouldn't doubt the possibility that your boss just doesn't know that you haven't received a raise in 15 months. And they may not even know you're looking for one. In either of the two scenarios, waiting for a raise could lead to you waiting indefinitely. By being assertive and asking for a raise, you can bring attention that you 1, want a raise, 2, that you deserve a raise, and 3, you have not received a raise in X amount of months. There's a lot at stake if you don't ask for a raise, and here are a few things that could happen. First, your salary will advance much slower because you're waiting for a raise to be handed to you instead of expediting that process to make sure that you're getting raises faster. Second, you let the company take advantage of your work because they aren't paying you what you're supposed to be paid. So since you're underpaid, they're getting a benefit out of that and taking advantage of it. Third is that you hurt yourself financially because you're not making as much money as you should be making. And because of that, your mental health may take a hit from less financial stability and feeling that you're not valued by your employer. Finally, you decrease the potential salary raise you could get if you were to leave to another company in the future. So for example, if your salary with your current employer is $50,000 and another company hires you at a 10% raise, your salary would be $55,000. However, imagine that you received a raise 6 months ago from your current employer and have a $55,000 salary. Now, when a new company hires you at the same 10% raise, your salary is now $60,500. And as you go through life and you go through new jobs and you get raises, all of these things compound on top of each other. So you always want the compounding number to be bigger. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to create your case when asking for a raise. When you ask for a raise, you're going to need to go in there with an argument on why you deserve one. Going in there and throwing out a random number isn't going to work for you. Here's some things you could do to build your case. First is to focus on why you deserve a raise and not why you need it. You shouldn't bring up why you need it for personal reasons. Your struggle to pay your bills and your desire to buy a new home aren't substantial grounds to ask for a raise. You always want to keep it about your work and about your output. The second is to compile a list of value you have added. Before you go in to ask for a raise, you need to prove that you are worth the value that you're asking for. You need to prove that you're an asset to the company and they would be missing out if they were to let you walk to another company that would pay you more. The best way to do this is to present the value that you have added. I made a video on multiple ways that you could add value to your company, so I'll link that either up above or down in the description. So anyways, you're gonna keep a spreadsheet or a journal somewhere where you could document all the value you've added and maybe the praise you have received. So as you can see here at the bottom, I have an example. You could say that on this date, we closed a deal, this added $2 million in profit to the firm, and you received recognition from management for that. Next, you could have improved the financial model. The result was that it cut down the time to push out a model by 50%, and your boss was pleased with this improvement. So adding value isn't just about improving profits. You could add value in a variety of other ways, such as improving efficiencies in processes. You could take workload off your boss. You can make the workplace just much more livelier with your personality. And sometimes your manager or your boss needs to be reminded of these other forms of value. When you point these things out, it could open their eyes to how valuable you are to the team. You want to get to the point where you could say, hey, I added X amount of dollars to the company and I'm only being paying Y. And that's a huge difference, and I think I should make this much because of it. After you have covered past value you've added, you could bring up value that you anticipate bringing in the future upcoming year. If you have insight to the work or projects you'll be working on this next year, you could show that you're actually going to add even more value than you have in the past. So imagine that you're working for a small commercial real estate firm that completed 10 deals last year that brought $2 million in profit to the company. Imagine that you also know that the economic outlook ahead is really good, and you know that your firm's going to clear 12 deals, maybe even 15 deals. So if you're working on 5 more deals in the same 365 days, it's logical to believe that someone that produces more should be paid more. With a reminder of the good prospects ahead, your boss may be more lenient to give out raises. Okay, so far we've given out value-based reasons on why you deserve a raise. Next, you're going to want to use comparative analysis to make your case. And by that, I mean you're going to want to compare your salary to the salaries of others in a similar position, in a similar industry, and in a similar location. The idea is to gather salary data from multiple sources to compare to your salary. Imagine that in the industry you work for, you gather data and you see that the average salary is $90,000 per year. If your salary is $75,000 per year, then you're underpaid by $15,000. And with this, you could go to your boss and say, hey, I think I'm underpaid $15,000, and because of that, I think I should be paid $90,000 like everybody else that's in a similar position doing similar work as me. You can gather this data by searching online on places like Glassdoor or payscale.com or salary.com. It's important that you find data that's as closely related to your position as possible. So imagine you're a financial analyst in Austin, Texas. You shouldn't compare your salary to the salaries of financial analysts in a place like Los Angeles or a place like New York. Obviously, those places have much higher cost of livings, so it's not fair to compare your salary to that. So if I were a financial analyst in Austin, Texas, here's what I would do. First, I would research the salaries of financial analysts at similar companies within Austin. Next, I would research the salaries of financial analysts at similar companies in other cities similar to Austin in terms of cost of living. So imagine you have a range here. At the low end, you have $80,000, and at the high end, you have $100,000. The mean would be that $90,000 mark. Next, number 4, you would show where you are versus that mean. So if this is 90,000, 75 would be down on this end, and you could show that you're technically underpaid. Finally, step 5 is to keep the sources for these numbers on hand in case you need to bring them up and show proof. Finally, to close your pitch, there are some questions that you could ask your boss. And these questions help bring everything together to help guide your boss to the conclusion that you do in fact deserve a raise. And the key is that they're coming to the conclusion on their own with these questions. So let's stick with our example and say that you make $75,000 and you want to make $90,000. Here are some questions you could ask. First one is, did I create more than $75,000 worth of value in the past year? Remember that at the beginning of your pitch, you showed how much value you've added so far. By asking your boss this, they don't really have any other option but to agree with you because you've shown the value that you've added. So after that, the second question you're going to ask is, will I create more than $90,000 worth of value this current year? Also remember in your argument, you showed how much value you anticipate bringing in the upcoming year. The economic outlook is good, you know you're going to close more deals, and you showed this to your boss and they've agreed with you. So when you ask, am I worth $90,000 in this next year? They're likely to say that yes, you are. The final question to ask them to get their mind going is, am I worth $15K more than the past year? By this point of your argument, $15,000 seems so small relative to the numbers that you've been bringing up. You proved you've been valuable, and you've made a compelling case on why you'll be even more valuable in the future. So your boss is likely to agree with you that you are in fact worth $15K more in the past year. All right, that wraps up the lesson on how to build your case. Let's get to the bonus tip. One way to go the extra mile and to increase your chances of success is to build a presentation for your argument. Literally build a PowerPoint presentation and either present it In a conference room, you could print out slides or you could just show them on your computer. Whatever seems most reasonable for your situation. But the act of creating a presentation accomplishes multiple things. One, you're able to clearly present your ideas without forgetting anything and making sure that you hit all your points. You could put all your data on these slides, and the fact that you built a presentation alone is going to show in their eyes that you're always willing to go the extra mile and you care about what you present and you're making a solid argument. So let's just go to an example right here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You just have a first slide like this. You could have raised proposal, your name, and the date. So here's an overview of the slides that you could include. You could have your executive summary where you just summarize everything you're going to talk about. Number 2, why you are requesting a raise. Bring up your points on why you're asking for one. 3 is why you are deserving of a raise. That's where you would list out all your points and your arguments, which include number 4, recent value that you've added. Number 5, upcoming value that you anticipate adding. Number 6, comparable salaries. That's where you would compare your salary with the data of others. And finally, you'd finish off with those questions we just talked about. Here's an example of what the slide could look like. Why I'm deserving of a raise. I added to the company value excess of this amount of dollars. I anticipate bringing this amount of dollars, and so forth. Here's how you could add your recent value added. You could add these bullet points here and the screenshot that I shared earlier in the slide. And yeah, you could just build out a presentation to make your case. And this is gonna greatly increase your chances. This is something that I've done on my own and found success with.